back to Rar, it's Aisha. If you haven't been here before, welcome. My name is Aisha. Duh. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before we start because I have some exciting food to share with you guys today. So today I have another copycat recipe for you guys. I know that I've been getting a lot of requests for this KFC recipe ever since I showed it in my John Wayne Gacy Mukbang video. And a lot of you have been interested about the recipe, and I'm so sorry this is late, but my footage got deleted and it was a whole debacle. I was like, I'm gonna quit YouTube over this, but it's okay, we're back. I remade the video and it actually turned out better than it did last time because I tweaked the recipe a little bit more, and now it is bomb as F. But thank you guys so much for being patient. I know I kept saying, oh, I'm gonna post it this day, and I didn't do it. And I can say with like my whole heart that this is an amazing recipe. It's one of my top 3 on this channel. So let's go ahead and get started. So I used the recipe from Heck Yeah, It's Vegan for their vegan fried chicken, and kind of just tweaked it to my own taste. So you're gonna start off with needing 2 bowls, one larger one and one that's a little bit smaller. So in the larger bowl, we're gonna put 1.5 cups of Vital Wheat gluten, and you can actually get this at Winco for really cheap in the bulk section. Next, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then I added 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. Next, let's add a little bit of salt. We're just gonna add 1/2 teaspoon and plop that in there. And you're gonna wanna get some freshly ground pepper for this. It really enhances the flavor, I promise you, I'm not bullshitting you. And then we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of the ground pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. And we're just gonna mix that together until it's incorporated and just set that aside and get our wet ingredients ready in our other bowl. So in our smaller bowl, we're gonna add cold water. It needs to be cold, so I got this from the fridge. If you don't have time, just have it sit with some ice cubes until it gets a little bit condensation on the outside of the glass, and then you're good to go. And we're also gonna grab some soy sauce, and we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of that in there. And then if you have some bouillon paste, go ahead and add some of that. I added garlic and it turned out amazing in this, so don't be afraid to play with flavors. You do not have to stick with just the plain vegetable bouillon or like the mock chicken one. The garlic one brought a whole different dimension to the chicken and it made it juicier. I feel like it was a great addition. So try and get that incorporated. It's kind of hard to mix bouillon paste into cold water, but do the best you can. I had to go in there with the wooden spoon. And after that, we're gonna bring back our dry ingredients and quickly mix the wet ingredients into it. Once you start adding liquid to Vital Wheat gluten, it becomes very difficult to deal with very fast. So you wanna do everything quickly and effectively, or else you can be just dealing with a stringy mess. Pretty much. I don't know how else to explain it. The first time I made this, I added everything into one bowl. I didn't see the point of putting the wet ingredients into a separate bowl, and it kind of messed everything up because I put the water in there and then it already started kind of thickening up really fast after I added the water. So when I added the soy sauce and the other flavorings, they didn't really incorporate as well. So it is a major step to make sure that the wet ingredients are already incorporated and ready to go and add into the dry ingredients, or it might just make the whole process really difficult. Vital Wheat gluten is not as intimidating as it may seem, but you have to handle it in the right steps to make it easy to deal with. Otherwise, you're just dealing with a tough piece of dough. Put it out onto your countertop and really knead it. You're gonna have to knead it for at least 10 minutes because you want it to get kind of a chewy texture similar to chicken. Otherwise, it's just gonna rise kind of like regular dough and be very mushy and soft. And once I felt like it was ready to be cut, I put it on a cutting board, and you can cut this into 6 pieces if you want to be more if you want more of a traditional like KFC bucket. But I decided to do more like nuggets / strips for this one, just to change things up. And I really like having smaller pieces as opposed to like big fillets of chicken. So we're getting our broth ready. You're gonna need at least 5 cups of water. Then I added 2 tablespoons of soy sauce like we did in the chicken mixture, as well as some more bouillon. This time I did a tablespoon of that garlic bouillon. This is actually perfect. You don't want the chicken to be boiled at all. You want it to be at a constant simmer. So we're gonna add the chicken bits into here and let this simmer for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, go ahead and flip them real quick. And then we're just gonna cover them and let that simmer for 30 more minutes. So we're gonna just put those on a rack to kind of just get rid of the excess juice so the breading will stick on better. So for the wet ingredients of the breading, we're gonna start with 1/3 of a cup of water. It could be at room temp, it doesn't need to be cold this time. And we're also gonna add 3 tablespoons of spicy mustard. I have this sriracha spicy brown mustard, which I love making this with. So we're just gonna plop that in. I was running out, so it was kind of difficult for me. So once we have our watery mustard already, we're gonna also add 3 tablespoons of flour. And we're gonna mix that all up with a whisk until it's nice and smooth. And this is just regular all-purpose flour. So once it's all smooth, we're just gonna put that aside and start our dry ingredients. And with our dry ingredients, we're gonna start off with a cup of flour. And again, this is gonna be all-purpose flour. Nothing fancy here. I'm also gonna add 1/4 of a cup of nutritional yeast, or as us vegans call it, nooch. We're also gonna add 2 hefty tablespoons of cornmeal, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1½ teaspoons of cumin, 1½ teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika. I added a little bit more because I was running out, so I just plopped the rest of the paprika in there, which wasn't too much more. And I also added some salt. This time I added 1/2 teaspoon. And I also added the freshly ground pepper. It was more like a tablespoon of the freshly ground pepper. And I mixed that all up. And if you want, you could go ahead and play around with the spices with this. You could really make this into anything you want. This is not really traditionally how KFC does it. I think this is actually way better than KFC. The breading sticks on better. So let's go ahead and start breading our chicken fillets. And then I did that for all the chicken fillets. So yeah, you want it well coated. You don't want to be able to see any part of the seitan. And while you're getting the breading ready, go ahead and start getting the oil hot on the stove. And then we're gonna plop those chicken pieces in there. And then we're going to fry them for 7 minutes on each side. So while the chicken's cooking, I wanted to make a barbecue sauce. I actually started the barbecue sauce back when the chicken was sitting in the broth. But we're gonna start with 2 cups of ketchup. I find it funny that most people don't realize that barbecue sauce, the base is just ketchup. It's just a really sweet ketchup. Next, we're gonna add a cup of water. I also chopped up 4 cloves of garlic because I wanted it really nice and garlicky. So I'm gonna add that into there as well. If you don't want as much garlic, feel free to reduce the amount. I also added a nice hefty teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, as well as 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar to give it that tartness it needs. Also 5 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. You could also substitute light brown sugar if you want. I honestly can't tell the difference. And then we're gonna add some Truvia packets, which this ends up being about 5 to 6 tablespoons of sugar, but I used the Truvia instead because that's what I had on hand. And then of course some freshly ground pepper. I used about a tablespoon almost. I really like peppery barbecue sauces, but you could reduce the amount if you like. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon of onion powder, half a tablespoon of ground mustard, another tablespoon of soy sauce. This is a soy sauce heavy recipe. And then we're just gonna bring that to a boil and then reduce it for a simmer. And it does take a little bit of time to make barbecue sauce. It takes about an hour, maybe an hour 15 minutes. I think mine took a whole hour 15 minutes, but it's so worth it. It's so much better than getting it from the store in a bottle. Just having it fresh it just changes the game, you guys. And I like my barbecue sauce thick. If you want it thinner, go ahead and add some more water near the end of the cooking process and just play with the consistency to get what you want. All right, guys, this is the finished product. Super crispy. Some of them kind of broke down into smaller nuggets, which I'm really not mad about at all. But how awesome does this look? And here's the barbecue sauce I made. So let's go ahead and try it. I was so happy with how these turned out, you guys. The breading stuck on really well, got nice and golden brown. Look how beautiful that is. It could be in a KFC commercial and you would not know. The barbecue sauce was sweet, spicy, everything you want in it. And to me, guys, it looks pretty real compared to like a McDonald's chicken nugget. It turned out so good. The texture was amazing. I really couldn't have asked for it to turn out any better. I've always been intimidated by playing around with Vital Wheat gluten, but now that I've gotten the hang of it, it is such a nice skill to have as a vegan to be able to make these proteins. And I'm not kidding when I say a lot of protein. I think for all the chicken, it's about 140 grams of protein. If you're trying to get those gains, definitely a good recipe. But please, guys, if you do try this recipe, don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I love to see your creations. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell so when I upload, you'll be able to see when I upload. You know what I mean. There's no good way of saying that, is there? Also, don't forget to like this video so I know how to make more copycat recipes for you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!